everyone, and thanks for joining us for the Netherlands Awakens. I'm Rachel, and I'm very happy to welcome you to this virtual experience with Royal Delft. This virtual experience is part of the Tiqets Awakening Weeks, which is a 6-week celebration of the reopening of more than 100 museums and attractions in 6 countries around the world. These venues have worked around the clock to make it safe to visit again, and now they're rolling out the welcome mat with these online experiences so that everyone can join the experience and help reawaken the cultural institutions worldwide. This experience will start in just a moment, but as people are starting to join us still, I'll kick off by sharing a little bit of logistical information. So first of all, we will be having a Q&A at the end of this session with the Royal Delft team and a master painter. So if you have any questions from them, please submit them through the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. We'll use that to find the questions quickly at the end of the session, and it's where you can also vote on your favorite questions, so you make sure we ask the best ones first. Secondly, this is a Zoom webinar, so your camera won't be on, but you can use the chat to communicate with your fellow attendees. Do so by selecting panelists and attendees when you're sending your chat, and then everyone will see it. And then finally, the session will be recorded. We'll be sending that out to all registrants, and you can also share it with anyone who you know back home who might enjoy it when we do so. Finally, you can use the #AwakeningWeeks hashtag on social media to join in the conversation. You can share where you're experiencing this Royal Delft experience from, or share a memory from a previous visit to the Netherlands or Delft. Just tag us at Tiqets or use the #AwakeningWeeks and we'll share your post. So that's it. Without further ado, I'm so thrilled to hand it over to the team at Royal Delft and to our host, Ado, who will transport us all to Delft. So you guys can take it away.
Hi everyone, how are you? My name is Ado and I will be your host for this event. We are currently in Delft, the scenic little Dutch town, which is like Amsterdam's little sister with many canals, but it's probably most famous for its blue and white ceramics called Delft Blue. I'm now standing right in front of the oldest and original Delft Blue factory from the 17th century, so please follow me as we go inside. So we are now at Royal Delft. Please raise your virtual hand if you are familiar with the blue and white ceramics made here in Delft, like the pieces that are behind me. The story that I'm going to tell you today is a story about Dutch history and craftsmanship, and it's a story of 400 years of history. Around 1600, the Dutch people, before we even became a country, we founded a very successful company called the VOC. The Dutch tradesmen went all over the world and they found, among other things, blue and white ceramics in China. They brought them over to the Netherlands and they discovered that people were willing to pay millions for them in the trade markets in Amsterdam. So at one point in time, they didn't have enough Chinese ceramics anymore, so the Delft people decided to make their own. And one by one, the factory started in Delft. So after about 50 years, there were 32 different factories in the city center of Delft making Delft Blue ceramics. Nowadays, there's just one factory left, and that's Royal Delft. And up until this day, we still make the hand-painted Delft Blue ceramics. Later on, we're also going to meet one of the painters and do an interview with them, so you'll discover what it's like to be one of the master painters. So please follow me. So the way this factory survived for so long was by innovating. We didn't just stick to the original methods, but we also made new designs, and we're doing that up until this day. So later on in this tour, I will show you some examples of these modern designs. But first of all, I'm going to take you into the museum and show you one of the innovations of the 19th century, which is called building ceramics. Now we are here at an historical site, which is the building that we have been in for over 100 years. And these pieces that you see behind me are building ceramics made by Royal Delft. So we didn't just make the blue and white ceramics. And these pieces were used all over the world, like in the Trades Company, in The Hague, Amsterdam, but even in places like Indonesia. The building ceramics from Royal Delft were used on restoration works on the Borobudur, which is the biggest Buddhistic temple in the world, which is located in Indonesia on Java. So Royal Delft went all over the world. But without further ado, let's go to meet one of our master painters in the next room. So let me introduce you to Laurens. Laurens has been working with us for 7 years, and he's on his way to become one of the master painters of Royal Delft. We only have 15 painters working for us at current. And Laurens, if it's okay with you, I have some questions for you.
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, good afternoon.
How long have you been working as a painter at Royal Delft? When did you start?
Well, I started in 2015, at the start of 2015, so I'm painting almost 7 years now. And it's like, for me at least, 40-hour jobs, 40 hours a week. And of course, I had to start at the bottom, learn the very basics, and try to become a master painter one day.
So why did you want to become a master painter? I mean, it's very odd in this day and age to be working without a computer, right? You have a desk without any technology.
Yeah, it is indeed not a job people in kindergarten think about, like, hey, I want to become a Delft Blue painter. Like I wanted to be a jet pilot, but I'm here now. But indeed, like you said, I did art schools. I had a job at 3D animation, so there was a lot of work behind the computer. And after 7 years, I really got fed up being behind the desk all day with only my keyboard and my mouse, and I wanted to make something that I really could hold and touch and cherish for a long time. And well, while I was thinking that, I stumbled upon an advertisement in the newspaper that the Royal Delft was looking for painters, so I applied right away.
Yeah. So what is your favorite piece to paint? You're doing a plate now, but we have many different pieces, of course.
Yeah, well, this is a pretty new one, so I'm not sure yet what to think about it. I think I probably will like it at the end, but I really love to paint landscapes and the bigger pieces. And now I saw left of me, we don't make it anymore, but things like this with just a big landscape on it and a few decorations, I really love pieces like that. And we've got some plates that look a lot like a vase like that. And
so do you design the landscapes yourself?
kinda. You're always stuck, well, always, most of the times, well, it has to feel like a traditional Dutch landscape, of course. So we like to put in a windmill or like a sailing barge, one we can see behind you. But we are kind of free to make the landscape ourselves, as long as that is the basics.
Yeah, so it's like your own little painting.
Yeah, your own kind of a small story in there, as long as it's based on a traditional Dutch landscape or whatever.
So you like landscapes? What is the hardest decoration for you to paint?
That would be portraits for sure. It is already difficult to paint a portrait. First of all, to capture a person the way the person really is and not the way you see him on the pictures. Incredibly hard already, but we have to paint it on a piece of earthenware, and you cannot erase what you put on there. And you can only make things darker, so if you start out, you're filled already. And to make a portrait in a one-off chance from somebody you probably never met in real life is really hard. So it's by far the most difficult to paint.
Yeah. Just a quick question. I hope the viewers saw this as well, but why are you painting in black? Since it's called Delft Blue.
Yeah, well, this indeed is the only paint I use for a plate like that. This paint is black because it contains cobalt oxide. And the cobalt oxide is a black mineral that's at this temperature at least it's black, but when you heat it well enough, we heat it at about 1150, 1200 degrees. It will turn blue eventually. And we saw this method of working with the cobalt in China. We took it home to Holland. In our eyes, we improved it, and now we've got this Delft Blue.
So what did they know about the chemical reaction like 400 years ago?
Well, they knew about it because the Chinese also made blue and white pottery, which that started being imported. But yeah, they probably discovered it by accident, like a lot of things were discovered in the past.
Yeah, yeah.
But we copied it.
All right. So how do you apply the outlines of the design?
Yeah, I can show you. Like the outlines on this one, I mean, you may mean like the blueprint.
Yeah.
Are already on there. That's what I have to paint to end up like that. And for that, we use a thing we call a sheet in Dutch, but it's not really a stencil. It's a piece of almost transparent paper. Sometimes we use plastic. We make this by putting it over the first one that's hand painted. Take out the whole design with a sharp needle so that we have this paper with all tiny holes in there. And if we put it on the piece we want to paint, and so this is the example on the back side. I'm not going to paint there, but just to show you. And I rub over it with a section of charcoal. You might see a little bit of what to paint.
All right. And then you trace the lines with the brushes.
Yeah.
All right. So then how do you make all these different shades? Because it's all the same paint, right?
Yeah, it is. Well, like for the outlines, I use almost the darkest ones, like you can see here. Like, yeah, they stand out the most. But when I want to fill in some pieces, like the jacket of this person here, I take the same paint, but I just add a lot of water to it. And the more water I add, the lighter the paint will be. So now I can put like a gray in there to make that sailor's jacket. And if I wanted to make a even lighter shade somewhere else, like in the sea over there, I just have to add more and more water until I think I've got the right shade.
You really got to have a feel for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can apply it there, like this should be the light shade like that.
So then, how are your brushes made? Do you buy these or?
Well, whenever we buy them, they look a little bit more like, well, say for example like this. But for the smaller lines, for example, we need brushes that have a very fine tip. So those we make by just cutting away all the hairs we don't want there, so that we've got this fine tip. We leave a little bit of those hairs there for like a water reservoir that is not dry when we just take one stroke. And then we've got this like, yeah, very sharp brush that almost works like a fine liner.
All right, so Laus, at the beginning you said to me like you really hope to become a master painter. You've been working here for 7 years, so how long does it take to become a master painter?
Well, that also depends on the painter. It's possible to become a master painter in 10 years. But to become a master painter, you really have to be able to paint like everything that we should be able to make it in a certain amount of time, and yeah, just be an employee here for at least 10 years.
Yeah.
So,
how are you trained? How do you practice your portraits, for instance?
Well, like it's sort of generation by generation. So when I applied here, there were painters here already for over like 50 years. And those painters trained me all the techniques. So you start out with the basics, like painting a leaf, painting straight lines, painting circles. Weeks in, weeks out, the same small thing until you've almost perfected it. Then you go to the next. And then you, after a few months, maybe a year even, you can start out with the smallest of pieces, and then the master painter who is teaching you just gives you more and more to paint. So it's slowly you slowly advance to the more complicated pieces to make, and eventually you're going to paint the characters for the letterings, to paint landscapes, in the end even portraits.
Yeah, so that's like the final stage
Yeah,
you're working
so,
on.
but
Yeah.
bit by bit you learn more and more if you're up for it. And then you get, of course, some time to really practice it, to make some miles, to really perfect what you just learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do you? Because there's been many generations of painters, of master painters. Is there any difference between the painters back then and you guys right now?
Yeah, I think so. Well, first of all, the numbers. In the past, there were a lot of painters. I think even 50 years ago, there were about 150 painters, so that's a lot more. Now, of course, we've got all those nice desks and chairs that are all adjustable. And back then, there were just those tiny desks, probably wooden chairs, if they even had a chair.
So you used to have like 150 painters, and now there's just one tenth of that, right? It's
about that.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah, and the paints nowadays are a lot healthier, but likewise are the working environment.
Yeah. So what do you hope for because it's been a tradition for almost 400 years, what do you want to say to the future generation of master painters?
Well, my first hope is that we really can keep up making really quality products, beautiful products, be inventive, make new nice things, but yeah, really to present something that people really love and like and wish to see, and that the painters who will paint it also have at least the same amount of joy in it as I have, and the people who are there to see this.
Keep up the tradition.
Yeah, and maybe even improve it. But,
Oh, that's great, Lars. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Keep practicing those portraits. I hope you will be a master painter soon. We'll go into the museum for a quick visit to show you some of the results of the master painter, and then we'll be back with you for the Q&A with the viewers. So,
of course, looking forward to that.
So in 2012, we started the Royal Delft Experience. So ever since then, it's possible to visit us, and you can visit the museum, meet the master painters like we just did, and have a Delft Blue High tea, many things like that, or even do a Royal Delft workshop. So practice what it's like to be one of the painters. But then I just wanted to show you a bit of the museum, some of the masterpieces, both the traditional pieces and the more modern pieces. So starting off right here with one of the modern pieces, this is called Proud Mary. Not the one like the cocktail, but our own Mary, inspired by Mary Stuart, the Queen of England and the Netherlands in the 17th century. And she was one of the biggest ambassadors for Delft Blue. So that's why we made a figurine after her. There's many different designs, smaller ones, but also giant ones that are, well, we have 4 or 5 big statues that are all around the Netherlands. So it's in the Tulip Park, like Keukenhof, but also in the airport in Amsterdam, you can find the big Marys. So then something a bit in between traditional and modern is the dinner set we made for the royal family. You can see it right here. This was a special custom-made design for the Dutch royal house, and this is used. We made 300 sets of it. This is used in the Royal Palace in Amsterdam on Dam Square when they have like the ambassadors over or other formal visitors. And then for our crown jewel, we will move to the big museum room, which is an actual size replica of the Night Watch. Of course, the original was by Rembrandt van Rijn. You can find it in the Rijksmuseum, but 2 of our master painters made a replica in the exact same size, made of 480 different tiles. So this is something only a master painter would be able to paint. And it took 2 painters 14 months to complete this piece. And then the one I was telling you about, my friend Proud Mary, the bigger version of her, one of them we kept here in the museum. All right, so but for the rest of the museum and the factory, you'll have to visit us in real life because we are open again. We took a lot of Corona measures, so it's very safe again to visit us. We even have our own Delft Blue face mask, which you can also buy in our web shop. So please visit us when you are able to again. We hope to see you again and give you a very warm welcome here at Royal Delft. Now we're just going to move back to the painter's office and have a Q&A with you. So please follow me back over here. All right, so we are ready for the Q&A.
Great. And we have quite a few questions for you and Lawrence.
All right.
Well, everyone wants to say how beautiful the pieces are. They're really admiring your artwork there. But the first question with the most votes from Jordana is, what's the most difficult piece that you've ever worked on?
Me, well, I had to
Let me
make...
get a chair.
Oh, yeah. I can answer it in the meantime. I had to make the portrait of the girl with the pearl earring once already. And like I said before, portraits are so hard. So in my remembrance, that still is the hardest piece I've worked on. And other tough pieces is sometimes you've got a bowl that or a vase that's so big that you really almost have to crawl under it to reach certain parts, and you're almost scary to touch something where no paint should be. So that's also kind of hard sometimes.
Something like this?
Yeah, you have to really work on the bottom, and it's, yeah, I don't know, your hand has to go in corners and edges. That makes painting pretty difficult, but you get used to it.
Great. And the next question is from Marlos, who wants to know, can you say more about the difference between the Delft porcelain and the Chinese porcelain that first inspired it?
Well, there's a lot of difference actually. First of all, in the techniques. When the Delft painters first started, they tried to copy it, but of course here in Europe we don't have the same materials. So they started using European materials like kaolin, for instance, and improving the product actually. And of course the decorations are very different in Chinese. Chinese have also like some landscapes and some flowers, but these are really Dutch landscapes and really Dutch flowers, so that's very different. And the way you can best recognize it, I think, is that the Chinese porcelain is a much lighter shade of blue. The Delft Blue has a very deep color in it, so that's a very easy way to recognize it. Another way to recognize it, if you have a piece at home, for instance, is to take a look at the bottom. With porcelain, there's always a trademark on the bottom. Yeah, I can show you. Actually, I hope you can see it. Our trademark says Delft, and then it has the initials JT in it, right over there. The JT is for the old owner of this factory called Joost Stoof. So he introduced this trademark. And even over here, we will put the initials of the painter. So if you see like LAU, then you know that Laurens painted it because that's his initials.
Great. I think that actually answered most of the next question as well, which was from Elizabeth. She wanted to know, how do you tell if an old piece of Delft ceramic is genuine? Is there anything to add on that? that front?
Yeah, definitely, because there's not just the painter's initials. So because of course you can imagine that not all the souvenirs in Amsterdam and Delft Town Center are made by our 15 painters. So you really have to look for that trademark on the bottom to see if it's not a copy or anything. But aside from like the initials that we have on this side, there's a year code on that side. So this one, for instance, says EH. Now we started in 1898 or 1889. I'm not entirely sure, but a long time ago we started with an A, and then the next year was a B, and then a C, and so on. And then when we were at Z, we started using 2 letters. So then it was AA, AB, and so on. I don't know, what's the year code for this year?
It's EO.
EO. All
yeah.
Right. So
that's 2020. It's a really easy way to say which year we are.
it's coded, but you can always, like, the way to find with ceramics is always to look at the bottom. So once you see that, you can always type this into Google and find out where it was made and who made it for you.
Fabulous. The next question is from Alexis, and she wants to know what's the difference between the copying and then the originality of the plates. So she saw that the template that you shared, but are the designs evolved by the artist besides just the templates, or, you know, essentially how does the design evolve over time if you're working from the templates as a base?
Yeah, well, like the designs we've got those templates from are all designed by in-house painters. Some of those templates we might even use for over like 140 years already. Some templates might have been designed like this year. But the idea is that we kind of stick to the design of the template, so that if a person buys something from the catalog or internet, that he or she will get a piece that kind of looks like what he or she ordered. But of course, every painter has his own like handwriting, so none of them is the same. Yeah, it is handmade, and like we can even tell our colleagues handwriting in the painting. So whenever I walk through the store and I see 5 of the same vases, I can probably tell, like, hey, this one is made by Caroline, that one is made by Leo, and that's kind of a way the pattern might evolve a little bit, but at the end it should look like the way it was designed to start with.
And for like new designs that I showed, like the Proud Marys, or for instance the dinner set for the royal family, this is really a collaboration between our designers and painters that work for Royal Delft. So the painters, they make like sketches, and then we place it on the items to see what it looks like. So this is a really a long process. And in case of the royal family, they really tell us like what they would like which kind of bird they wanted on it, which kind of flowers, and then we try to work with those elements and make a new design out of that. And usually we try to include like the master painters in that, because they have the most experience in new designs.
That makes a lot of sense. Lawrence, have you worked on a new design yourself while you've been at Royal Delft?
Yeah, well, actually I have, and yeah, I think that's pretty unique because most of the times, well, at least until now, it were always the master painters who made new designs. So I think I'm kind of lucky that I'm the first one that's not yet a master painter and made some designs. I made 2 designs for the Proud Mary you just saw, and we have a collaboration with a tattoo artist from Holland, and I also designed a few pieces together with him. So yeah, I've designed some pieces, and it was really nice to do.
Great. And we had a question about the Proud Mary. Someone wanted to know who originally designed the Proud Mary.
I have to say there were 2 artists involved, actually, Dutch artists. I don't know their names by heart. I'm so sorry. We can send it to you afterwards. I think it was Chris Koens and another artist. So they, like, In this case, like the same that Lauren said, sometimes we, of course, seek for collaboration, usually with Dutch artists, because it's, of course, a Dutch icon. So we want to work with Dutch people on this. And this can be a tattoo artist or a modern designer like Marcel Wanders, for instance, who also designed for KLM. So this really varies from project to project.
Great. And I'll just remind the audience to, in the Q&A, you can also vote on your favorite questions. We have 19 already there and we probably won't get through all of them, but do keep asking them and vote on your favorites so we get to the best ones first.
You can always try.
So the most popular question right now, just moved up when I said that, is from Miranda. She wants to know, how many hours does it take to complete painting each plate?
For each plate, well, the plate that was recorded during this interview, I think you saw the most of that one, will probably be, I think, 3 hours of painting, maybe a little bit more. But of course, there are so many different designs, and sometimes you've got plates that have the same size, but you've got very fine details, and of course, those will take much more time. Sometimes you've got plates with very big decorations, and yeah, it might look like the same plate, but it takes a little less time then. But this one, yeah, a little bit more than 3 hours, I guess.
Great. And the next question is from Daniela, who wants to know if there's a reason why the porcelain is only in the white and blue, or do you ever produce any other colors?
We did actually, yeah. We still have two collections in that regard. There's the blue and white collection, of course, called Delft Blue, and there's a multicolored version called Polychrome. And the fun fact is that we even started producing polychrome in Delft before we started with the Delft Blue. It was a couple of tens of years before that, but it never got the same attention. So I guess around that time, the color blue wasn't very common in nature and in general. So I think people thought that the color was very special. So I guess that's why it got so much attention in that day and age. And I guess it just stuck because we made a lot of different, there was even a Delft Black collection up until 2009 and Delft Red with pieces of gold in it, but they never got the same attention as the blue and white.
Really interesting. The next question, the person who chose to remain anonymous, they want to know if you make many mistakes, Lawrence.
Should I tell that? No. Well, of course, whenever you start being a painter, you make a lot of mistakes, I guess, and they should become less whenever you get more experienced. But yeah, once in a while, you might make a stupid mistake, and one of the things that when you feel really dumb if you make that mistake is that, I'm not sure if I can show you, but at the back of a plate there are some holes so that you can hang it on the wall, and those holes are always on top. So sometimes you start painting like this, you turn it around to sign it, and you discover that the holes are at the bottom. Those are really stupid mistakes that will happen to everybody, probably even every year. And those are the things you really want to go home and shame yourself.
I see a lot of
yeah. But, just have a collection of those hanging upside down on your wall.
Later.
Yeah, and like this plate is only 3 hours of painting. It can also happen with plates that took like 2 days of painting. So happens.
Yeah. The next question is from Cadence, who wants to know what degree is the porcelain cooked or fired in?
So it's fired 2 times actually. We didn't show the factory now, but the kilns are running day and night because it's fired before the painting for 20 hours at 1150 degrees Celsius, and then a second time after painting it at 1200 degrees Celsius. Again for 20 hours, so 40 hours in total.
Great. And then Jal wants to know, how much is the most expensive item that you guys sell, and what are some of the more affordable items that people can pick up?
So it's a the night watch, but that doesn't have a price. No, I guess the most expensive piece would be the tulip pyramid. So this is like a very tall pyramid of 1 meters and 20 centimeters, I guess, which is about 15,500 euros. A fun fact, we recently made one of 12 meters long, which is now standing next to the highway before you arrive at Royal Delft. So this is a very nice place to visit as well. Well, let's say like the cheaper items are €5, maybe €6, something like that. So we have like little magnets and things like that. So there's a very, very large price range here.
But hand painted.
Yeah.
Hand painted, I guess, starts at about €60.
Yeah, for hand painted pieces, that it takes at least 4 days to make a hand painted piece. So this will be at least €40. Yeah.
Yeah. The next question, also from Cadence, is what are the purposes of the Proud Marys? Is it purely decorative, or do they contain perfume or something else?
No, not really. No, it could be nice actually to put some bowls in it, liquor or something like that. No, but these are just decorative.
And they're modular, so you can also collect them.
Yeah, they exist of like 4 different pieces, so you can switch them up and yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Someone wants to know, is it possible to purchase shards remotely, or are they sold only in Delft?
Yeah, so we have this Dutch saying, which is shards bring you luck. So we sell like a kilogram of luck. That's I'm not sure if they are in the web shop as well, to be honest, because we cannot really like guarantee we will have shards. So they are usually sold here at our venue.
I've got to make a lot of mistakes to make shards.
Some more of those bowls.
Great. And then Lace wants to know, did you have calligraphy practice because you have a nice lettering there?
Yeah, well, we've got a few fonts that we kind of use a lot of times, and those fonts are also probably made by some master painters a few generations ago. And practicing those this lettering is also one of the tougher things to learn. But I think at the end it looks a lot of like calligraphy, but it's not that we went on a course especially for that. I think it's also just something that our master painters teach to us how to paint those fonts, and they don't give a special label to it.
It's very, I heard that it was very difficult with the Arabic alphabet, right?
Yeah, Chinese.
Yeah.
Especially because you don't know what you're writing whenever you have to make that.
Yeah.
But it's just a lot of hours and days spending to practice all kinds of lettering. But yeah, we didn't give it a label like calligraphy, or we didn't go to a special school to learn that. It's also just taught to us by the master painters.
Great. And then Marlis wants to know, she's always been wondering how people keep clean the tulip faces.
Yeah.
you can put them in the dishwasher, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe glue it all together. I also really wouldn't know.
How to keep them clean, you said, right? Or...
Clean. Yeah, so dishwasher is a very easy solution to that, I think.
Yeah. In Dutch, we call them dust catchers. This is not a good sales pitch.
Yeah.
But,
If you've got this one that's like 1 meter and 20 centimeters, it's pretty tough to put it in the dishwasher. But no, it's hard. It's also hard for us, by the way, because with the charcoal and the paint, and my fingers are sometimes a little bit black, to also keep it clean while painting. So it's really paying attention not to mess it up, because otherwise when you put it in the oven and it will turn out blue, you've also got some blue fingerprints there. So for us it's even problematic to keep them clean.
So the next question, which I think you answered somewhat in your introduction, but maybe revisiting it, some people might not have caught it. Did you always want to be a master painter, Lawrence?
Well, I probably not really answered it all the way, but like it's a very weird and special job. So when I was young, I really didn't even know there were still people painting Delft Blue. I thought they were relics from the past or something. So yeah, you can't dream of becoming something you don't know that even exists. But I also wanted to make, draw or paint things, of course. But yeah, that this was still a job was kind of a dream come true at the end, for example. But I only discovered it when I was like 25 or something. So yeah, it wasn't in my mind when I was younger. But that was mainly because I didn't know that it existed.
Great. And the next question is from Iana, who wants to know if you have an online shop for some of these items that delivers in Europe, and I think maybe someone else further down said in the US.
Yes, yeah, well, we deliver all over the world. So it's just royaldelft.com/webshop. And we have all our products over there. So just take a look and yeah, knock yourself out.
Can you see online who did the painting that you're buying? Could someone order from Lauren specifically?
You might have to make a note, but yeah, it's possible. Probably if you buy a landscape, it was probably made by Laurens anyway.
Yeah,
so.
welcome.
Great. Peter wants to know, going back to the mistakes theme, what happens if you make a mistake in the painting? Is it possible to correct it, or do they all just go to the shards pile?
Well, it depends on the stage I am at. Like whenever I start out, and like what I've got here is still kind of starting out. Whenever I make a mistake now, yeah, I will just start over because erasing is not possible. I might be able, if I make a mistake, for example, close to some of the decorations, that I might alter it a little bit. But I can't do that in, for example, portraits or on parts that are supposed to be white. So most of the time it's starting over. When I'm almost finished, we probably still put it in the oven and see how it will turn out. And if it's still not what we want, we might put it in a discount in our store. But if it's really not sellable and it would damage our name for selling pieces like that, yeah, there is where you get the shards from. Just smash it and make a new one. Yeah.
Do you have a big smashing party at the end of every month?
Yeah, of course, yeah. It's, people in Delft are really looking forward to those days.
Great. The next question is from Dea, who wants to know, so you've obviously described the paint a fair amount, but is there any particular ceramic that you use? Is it a specific type of white porcelain, or what is the ceramic that you're using there?
That's one for you.
Yeah. So it's the main ingredient is kaolin. If there's more than 80% of kaolin, it will be porcelain, and less than that, it's earthenware. So we make very sturdy earthenware. And some of the other ingredients are like feldspar, quartz, things like that. But mainly it's kaolin. And this is also called the white baking clay. So this is like when you fire it, it's immediately already white. So we don't have to first paint it and then paint the blue over it.
Great. And then the next question is, does the paint fade? Like after 10 years, would it look different than it does straight out of the kiln?
No, that's really, I think, one of the biggest advantages. I think it won't ever fade. It's because of the chemical reaction, the cobalt has become that color. It isn't like the paint you put on a painting that might fade away or that you can scratch off. It's below the glazing. The cobalt has become that color of blue. No, we've never seen pieces that faded, and which are, yeah, the oldest ones are probably more than 500 years old. So I guess not.
Not the sort of fading you would notice on a pantry shelf then.
No, maybe in a few thousand years, but I guess I'm not around to check it. So.
Great. And then,
but I hope it's still the same, so they can still see my name on the bottom.
and then Carol wants to know if in general you make kind of every plate different, or if you try to make plates that match like a set, but have differences between them.
I try, if it's the same pattern, to make them as equal as possible, I guess. But when it's a separate piece and I see some things in the design which I like a little bit less, I might give my own twist on it, but I guess somebody who doesn't work it wouldn't even notice it. But for my feeling, I just improved it by just making a line a little bit more fluid or a little bit thinner or thicker. But it is for if it's like some pieces which are balled together, yeah, I really try to make them just feel the same. And of course they are always different. Yeah, it's hand painted, so it might differ to what it is. If I think I can improve it a little, I probably will, but not noticeable for somebody else. But if it's really like two vases on a cupboard, yeah, I really try to make it the same, because otherwise I think it would be kind of disturbing, yeah, to look at the cupboard with those vases on top of it.
Amazing. And just for the a note, we have about 3-4 maybe questions left time for, so put in any last questions you have, and if they get some votes, then we'll be able to get to them. But the next question we have now is from Steph, who wants to know, what is the most rare KLM house?
Most rare KLM house? I have to be honest with you, I wouldn't know which one is the rarest. It's, we're still making new designs, so it's hard to say.
Yep. So the next question is from Norberto, who wants to know if the designing process is always this, kind of privilege of the master painter, as you described that before, but if you ever accept some customer choice or customer input into that.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Indeed, it happens mostly, and it's mostly for our own collection. So pieces we make a few more of that will become parts of our collection. But of course, we also have got indeed some one-of-a-kinds that people order, and still like 99% is made by the master painters. But whenever we've got jobs like those, the customer have the most input of all. Like, they say what they want, they might collect images, they might have seen a border of a plate somewhere on the internet, and they say, I want that border, I want my picture on there with this story next to it. Yeah, you've got endless possibilities, and we listen and we make the best design out of that. Send back a picture of the design to the customer to check if that's what he or she wants, and then if it is a yes, we're going to paint it. So yeah, customers got a lot of saying in what we are going to make if they like that. But sometimes it's also like, I just want this name, and you name a nice plate or make something, and we get a little bit more freedom. But it's it's nice both ways.
So if another question now from Paolo, if a customer has a request like that, would it have to be something specific? He says like ships, spaces, houses, that sort of thing, or can they kind of request whatever they want?
Whatever they want, really.
Well, in regards to decoration, of course, it's always best to pick like a shape that we already have, because it takes a lot of effort to make a new mold. Yeah. So it's as long as you pick like a standard product, then you can completely customize what's on it.
So the painting is much easier than the bisque we paint on, indeed.
Yeah. And then the next question is, what would be the oldest heirloom Delft in your collection in the museum?
In our collection? I know where it is actually, but I'm not sure when it was made. I think it was the 17th century. We have like one really old piece, but I'm not sure of the exact date.
Okay.
Here.
That's okay.
We'll get back to you on that.
Moving on to what I think will be our last question based on the timing, is around the being a certified Delft ceramic artist. How much time does it usually take? Someone wants to know, can you only get certified if you're a Dutch person, or can you be from anywhere? Just a little bit more about that.
Well, usually we have some immigrants actually painting here. I think 2 Russian ladies, but they do speak Dutch fluently, of course, because they also work in the experience. So they need to be able to talk to our visitors as well, and of course understand their training and all of that. So I mean, they can be from anywhere as long as they speak a little bit of Dutch. So.
Yeah, and it also thing is, of course, because to become a master painter takes 10 years. So it's also a thing that we wish that people were going to be employed here, stick around for at least 10 years because of the investment for people to become a master painter.
Yeah, so it's more really about dedication and creative abilities than, but most of them are Dutch, of course.
Great, that makes a lot of sense. And sadly, I know everyone's been enjoying this, but that's all that we have time for today. So as a reminder, this virtual experience was part of the Tiqets Awakening Weeks, which is the 6-week celebration of the reopening of museums and attractions around the world, and specifically in the Netherlands this week. So if you are in the Netherlands, please give Royal Delft a visit. You can experience these Awakening Weeks in person. You can find out more by visiting tiqets.com/blog/awakening weeks for information on all of the Awakening Weeks. There's a lot more virtual experiences tomorrow you can join in on, and on how to visit these places in person. We've also put the link to the Royal Delft web shop, I think, in the chat already, so you can check out some items there. But that's it. I just have to thank you so much, Ado and Lawrence, for taking the time. This was a fascinating conversation, and thank you to everyone who's joined us today for asking such great questions and being so engaged.
Yeah, and same here. I guess thank you all.
Yeah, thank you very much for your attention and joining in.
And the nice questions.
Yeah, we really hope to see you again when all of the corona is over. So yeah, feel free to.
Okay, well, I see lots of people saying that they'll plan to visit soon, so that's great to see.
And I'm really curious where everybody was from, so maybe we can get an update.
Yeah. There's a lot of people in the chat sharing where they're from and when they've
great.
So yeah, we'll make sure you see all those notes from them. And then in the meantime, thank you everyone, and we're looking forward to finding more ways to experience culture with all of you again soon.
Yeah, all right. Stay healthy, everyone. Stay safe.